Marcus only wanted a peaceful evening with his daughter, something simple, something quiet, something normal for once in his busy life. After a long week of work, school drop-offs, and late-night chores, he finally had a free evening. His little girl, Alina, had begged him for one thing: "Daddy, can we eat outside today?" Her bright smile always melted him, so he agreed without thinking twice. That is how both of them ended up sitting at table 6 inside a warm, cozy bistro on a Friday evening. The place smelled like fresh bread and coffee, soft jazz music played in the background, and small yellow lights made the whole restaurant feel calm and safe. Marcus chose table 6 because it was close to the wall, away from the crowd. He always preferred to sit where he could see the entire room. Most people wouldn't notice such things, but Marcus wasn't most people. His eyes were trained, sharp, and always scanning without anyone realizing it. He looked at the exits, the people entering, the sound of footsteps, the tension in voices, everything small and simple that normal people ignored. But to him, these were natural habits, a part of a past he never talked about. Alina swung her legs happily under the table while eating her fries. She kept talking about her school drawings, her new teacher, and how she wanted to learn piano someday. Marcus listened with a soft smile. Lately, his life had been only responsibilities, only bills, only survival. But moments like this made all the struggle worth it. He gently fixed her tiny afro puff hair and wiped ketchup from her cheek. She giggled, calling him "Daddy the Cleaner," and he laughed quietly, trying not to disturb anyone around them. Across the bistro, a man in a suit sat with 2 other people. He looked important. Expensive watch, clean haircut, calm posture. Everyone seemed to glance at his table once or twice. Marcus didn't care at first, but after observing a bit, he realized the man was the CEO of a big tech company. Marcus had seen him once on TV during a news interview. The CEO looked tired, like he wanted a break from people, just like Marcus. But the peaceful evening didn't last long. When the bistro door opened again, the air inside shifted. Marcus felt it before he even fully looked. 3 men walked in, tall, rough-looking, with eyes that searched the room in a way Marcus knew too well. They didn't come for food, they didn't look at the menu. Their steps were slow but purposeful, their shoulders were tense, their eyes were locked on one thing: the CEO. Most people around didn't notice. Some were too busy talking, others scrolling on their phones, but Marcus noticed instantly. His back straightened, his muscles tightened just a little, nothing visible to the normal eye but enough to wake up his old instincts. Alina looked up at him and asked, "Daddy, you okay?" He forced a small smile and nodded. "Eat your food, sweetheart," he whispered softly, but inside, he was preparing for something he wished wouldn't happen. The 3 men pretended to sit at different tables, but Marcus saw the signal one of them made with his fingers, a small gesture, very quick, invisible to anyone except trained eyes. Marcus's heart beat slowly, not in fear, but in readiness. He wanted to mind his own business, protect his daughter, and not get involved. He was not a cop, not a soldier anymore, just a father trying to live quietly. But danger did not care about what he wanted. He looked around to ensure Alina was safe. He subtly moved her to the inner side of the booth, away from the room. "Stay here, baby, okay? Don't get up," he whispered. She nodded, sensing something serious in his voice. Kids sometimes understood more than adults realized. Marcus tried to alert a waiter passing by. He leaned slightly forward and said in a calm tone, "You might want to call security. Something is wrong." The waiter laughed nervously, thinking Marcus was overreacting. "Sir, everything is fine. This is a safe place," he said and walked away. Marcus sighed quietly. He didn't blame the waiter. Normal people didn't see danger until it was already too late. But Marcus saw it, felt it, breathed it. The 3 men weren't just planning trouble. They were seconds away from acting. Their eyes exchanged the final look, their hands slowly reached inside their jackets, and their legs angled toward the CEO's table. The CEO didn't notice. He was still talking, unaware that danger was already closing in on him. Marcus placed his hand gently on the table, not grabbing anything, not moving too fast, just ready. His breathing slowed, his focus sharpened, his mind shifted into the same space it used to enter years ago, a place of clarity, discipline, and lightning-fast response, a place he hoped he would never need to return to, but tonight he had no choice. Alina whispered, "Daddy." He looked at her one more time, eyes soft, reassuring. "It's okay, baby, "Stay down," he said in the calmest voice he could manage. Outside, cars kept passing, people kept laughing, life continued as normal, but inside the bistro, time began to tighten like a rope, 1 second after another pulling harder. Marcus didn't want violence, didn't want attention, didn't want trouble, but he knew something with absolute certainty: if those 3 men made their move, people would get hurt, maybe even killed, and he could not sit by and watch that happen, not with his daughter right beside him, not with innocent people around. So the quiet father at table 6 prepared himself, silently, calmly, without fear, ready to do what he must, even if nobody else saw the danger coming. Marcus kept his eyes on the 3 men, even while pretending to focus on the food in front of him. Most people would miss small details, tiny movements, exchanged glances, the way someone shifts their weight before standing, but Marcus caught everything. It was as if the whole room became sharper, clearer, like the air itself was warning him. The soft jazz music suddenly felt too calm for what was about to happen. One of the men stood up first, acting like he was looking for the restroom. He walked past the CEO's table, but Marcus knew he wasn't headed anywhere useful. The man's hand brushed his jacket twice, checking something inside it. Marcus recognized that movement. It was the kind of gesture someone made when hiding something dangerous. The other 2 men stayed seated, but their eyes followed the first man closely, waiting for the moment he would give the signal. Marcus wanted to stay out of it. Deep down, he hoped he was wrong. He hoped this was all just his mind being too alert, too trained, too used to danger. But when the first man leaned toward the CEO's table and whispered something, Marcus saw the CEO's shoulders stiffen. He didn't hear the words, but he knew what kind of whisper made a man go pale. The waiter from earlier walked past Marcus again, smiling politely. "Everything okay, sir?" he asked. Marcus didn't even look away from the men as he answered. "Call security now," he said, but this time his voice had no softness, no calm politeness. It was direct, heavy, serious. The waiter's smile faded. He looked confused, then finally walked toward the back to get help. But it was already too late. The first man suddenly grabbed the CEO by the collar. The CEO's chair scraped loudly across the floor, and customers gasped. Chairs moved, glasses rattled. A woman screamed before she could stop herself. The other 2 men stood up at the exact same moment, synchronized like they had practiced this dozens of times. Marcus knew he had only seconds. Alina jumped when the noise broke out, her small hands gripping the edge of the table. Marcus touched her head gently and whispered, "Down, baby, don't look." He slid her under the booth seat with one smooth motion. She felt his steady hands and trusted him completely, even though she didn't understand what was happening. Customers began backing away from the CEO's table. Some reached for their phones, others panicked and froze in place. Marcus saw fear spreading through the room like a wave, but he stayed calm. He breathed out slowly, the way he used to before entering dangerous missions long ago. One of the attackers pulled something from his jacket. It wasn't a gun, but a long, sharp metal tool, enough to hurt someone badly. People shouted, "Stop," but no one moved closer. Marcus didn't blame them. Ordinary people weren't meant to be heroes in moments like this. They were scared, shaken, unprepared. But Marcus wasn't ordinary. The first attacker pushed the CEO backward, making him stumble into a chair. The 2 others circled around, blocking escape. Marcus saw the entire plan forming in front of him. The attackers wanted to force the CEO into a corner where no one could see clearly, a blind spot between tables. They were seconds away from isolating him. Marcus stood up slowly, not wanting to draw attention to Alina. He moved in a straight line, each step quiet but firm. His posture relaxed, but his eyes razor-sharp. He didn't rush or shout. He didn't try to act like a hero. He simply walked like a man who already knew what he needed to do. One of the attackers finally noticed him approaching and snarled, "Back off." Marcus didn't respond. He didn't slow down. He didn't look intimidated. The attacker stepped toward Marcus, trying to scare him, but something about Marcus's calmness made him hesitate. For a split second, the man's eyes flickered with confusion. Why wasn't this stranger afraid? Marcus glanced around the room one last time, making sure Alina was hidden, making sure the crowd had space to step back, making sure no innocent person was too close. His mind measured distances, angles, obstacles. Each detail clicked into place like pieces of a puzzle he had solved many times before. The CEO tried to push one attacker away but failed. The men tightened their grip around him. One of them whispered, "Do not move," pressing the metal tool toward the CEO's ribs. Marcus saw the tiny flash of panic in the CEO's eyes, and that was the moment he decided. He couldn't wait for security, they wouldn't arrive in time. He couldn't wait for the police, he couldn't risk his daughter or the helpless customers, and he couldn't ignore the instincts that had kept him alive for years. The first attacker stepped closer to Marcus, close enough to block his path. Marcus only said one thing in a low voice, "Stay where you are." The attacker laughed mockingly, thinking Marcus was bluffing. But Marcus wasn't bluffing, he was warning him. And the attacker had no idea how big of a mistake he had just made. The moment the attacker laughed in Marcus's face, something inside Marcus shifted. It wasn't anger, and it wasn't fear, it was a cold clarity. A switch flipping inside a man who had spent years learning how to survive situations exactly like this. The attacker thought Marcus was just another customer, another dad, another harmless man trying to protect his kid. He had no idea he was standing inches away from someone trained for moments far worse than this. The attacker stepped forward again, trying to intimidate him. "Did you hear me? I said back off," he growled. His voice echoed across the bistro. Marcus didn't blink, didn't move, didn't step away. Instead, he calmly said, "I won't repeat myself." The tone was soft but sharp enough to cut through all the noise around them. Something about it made the attacker pause for half a second, like his body understood the danger before his mind did. But the second attacker behind the CEO didn't pause. He pushed the CEO harder, forcing him into a corner. "Don't try anything," he hissed at the terrified businessman. The CEO's hands trembled, his back pressed against the wall. Customers gasped, but no one dared move closer. The room felt frozen with fear, except for Marcus, who took one silent breath that marked the end of hesitation. Then everything happened in one blur. The first attacker reached for Marcus's shirt, trying to shove him, but before his fingers even touched the fabric, Marcus moved. His hand shot forward with lightning speed, grabbing the man's wrist, twisting it sharply. The attacker's eyes widened, a cracking sound followed, loud enough to make people flinch. The man screamed as his weapon hand went numb and useless. In the next heartbeat, Marcus pushed him backward, sending him crashing into a table, plates shattering everywhere. The room exploded in shouts and shock, but Marcus was already on the second attacker before anyone could fully process what was happening. He moved with precision, not wild anger, every step controlled, every motion sharpened from discipline. The second attacker turned too slowly. Marcus's elbow slammed into his chest, knocking the wind out of him. Then Marcus grabbed the back of the man's neck and pushed him forward, smashing him against the table edge. The man dropped to the floor, gasping for breath, unable to stand. People whispered, "How is he moving like that? Who is he? Is he military?" But Marcus didn't hear them. His focus narrowed to only one threat, the third man, the most dangerous one. The third attacker still had the CEO pinned with a metal tool pressed to his side. His eyes widened when he saw his partners already lying on the ground, defeated so fast he hadn't even seen the strikes happen. "Don't move," the attacker shouted, pulling the frightened CEO tighter against him. Sweat rolled down the man's forehead, his voice shook as he yelled, "I'll hurt him, I swear." Marcus stopped walking, but only for a brief second. Everyone in the room held their breath. The CEO looked at Marcus with pleading eyes, uncertain if this stranger could save him or if things were about to get worse. Marcus spoke calmly, "You won't hurt him." His voice was so steady, so confident, that even the attacker hesitated. "Take one more step," the attacker growled, pushing the tool deeper. The CEO winced in pain. Marcus's face didn't change, but inside, he counted the distance, the angle, the exact moment he needed to move. The attacker tried to inch toward the door, dragging the CEO with him. "Stay back," he shouted again, but his voice cracked that time. His confidence was slipping. Marcus could see it, fear creeping into the man's posture. He wasn't expecting resistance. He wasn't expecting someone to fight back. He certainly wasn't expecting someone like Marcus. Marcus raised his hands slightly, palms open, making it look like he was surrendering, but every muscle in his body was coiled like a spring, waiting for the smallest opening. His eyes didn't blink, didn't waver, they locked on the attacker's hand, the one holding the weapon, the one that had just twitched with nervousness. That twitch was all he needed. In one explosive movement, Marcus lunged forward, faster than the attacker could react. He grabbed the attacker's wrist, twisted it violently upward, and smashed his forearm against the wall. The metal tool fell instantly, clattering to the ground. Marcus yanked the CEO away and pushed him behind him for safety, then he swept the attacker's legs, knocking him flat on his back. The entire fight had lasted 4 seconds, 4 seconds that felt like an eternity to everyone watching. Customers gasped, some covered their mouths, some whispered in disbelief. The CEO looked at Marcus as if he had just witnessed something impossible. The attacker groaned on the floor, shocked, beaten, and completely outmatched. Marcus didn't look proud, didn't celebrate, didn't bask in attention. He simply took a slow breath, making sure the danger was fully gone. Then he snapped his head toward the booth where his daughter was hiding. "Alina," he called softly. Her small head peeked out, eyes wide as moons. "Daddy, is it over?" Marcus nodded, offering her a gentle smile. "It's over, baby," he said, but the rest of the room was only beginning to realize that the quiet father at table 6 was no ordinary man. The bistro was silent for a full second after the last attacker hit the floor. It was the kind of silence that comes right after a storm. Shocked, trembling, heavy with disbelief, customers stared at Marcus like they had never seen a man move that fast in their entire lives. A few people had their phones out, but even those recording seemed frozen, unsure if what they caught on camera was real. Marcus didn't notice the attention. His priority was his daughter. Alina ran up to him and wrapped her small arms tightly around his leg. Trembling, he bent down, pulling her into his arms. "You're safe now," he whispered, his hand steadying her shaking shoulders. She buried her face into his chest, breathing fast. Marcus's voice was soft but firm. "It's okay, baby, I promise." The CEO, still catching his breath, slowly stepped forward. His hands shook slightly, his suit was wrinkled, and his face was pale, but his eyes stayed locked on Marcus. You saved my life," he said quietly, as if he couldn't fully understand what he had just seen. Marcus didn't answer, he simply gave a short nod, not wanting more attention, not wanting praise. He hated being in the spotlight. A few customers began to clap hesitantly, one by one, until the whole room erupted into applause. People stood, some crying, some filming, some staring in disbelief. Marcus felt uncomfortable under the sudden attention. He shifted slightly, placing Alina behind him protectively. He didn't want her overwhelmed by the noise or flashing cameras. But the noise grew louder when restaurant security finally rushed out from the back. Much too late, they looked at the unconscious or groaning attackers on the floor, then at Marcus, and then back again. One guard asked with disbelief, "Did you do this alone?" Marcus didn't respond. The CEO answered for him, "Yes, he did, and he did it in seconds." Police sirens echoed outside the bistro only moments later, flashing red and blue lights flooding through the windows. Officers pushed through the door with urgency, shouting commands. Customers raised their hands or stepped back, explaining what happened. The attackers were cuffed immediately, dragged out while cursing and groaning in pain. One officer approached Marcus. "Sir, we need your statement." Marcus nodded calmly and handed Alina his phone so she could watch cartoons, calming her nerves. "Daddy will talk to the officers for a minute, okay?" he told her gently. She nodded and clung to his sleeve before letting go. The police asked what he saw, how he reacted so fast, if he knew the attackers. Marcus answered everything clearly, simply, nothing extra, but the officers kept looking at him strangely. One of them said quietly, "You move like someone trained." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he stayed polite. "I've had some experience," he replied, keeping his past vague. The officer didn't push further, but Marcus could tell the man wanted to ask more. Meanwhile, the CEO stood near the counter, talking to a paramedic who insisted on checking him, but the CEO kept glancing toward Marcus, confusion and curiosity mixing in his eyes. Finally, he walked over. "Sir, I want to thank you properly," he said, his voice steadier now. "You saved me when you didn't have to." Marcus shook his head. "Anyone would have helped," he said quietly. The CEO frowned. No, they wouldn't, not like that." Before Marcus could respond, a woman approached with her phone. "Sir, can I get a picture with you?" Marcus stiffened. "No, please," he said, gently but firmly. He didn't want fame, he didn't want his face online, he didn't want old shadows from his past to rise because someone recognized him. The woman stepped back awkwardly, apologizing. But more people came, asking questions, trying to get details. Some wanted interviews, some wanted his name. Marcus's discomfort grew. He picked up Alina, holding her close. "We need to go," he murmured to himself, but the CEO blocked his path. Not aggressively, but with concern. "Wait, at least tell me your name," he said. Marcus hesitated, then replied, "Marcus Reed." The CEO repeated it softly, as if trying to remember it forever. "Thank you, Mr. Reed," he said again, but Marcus only nodded and carried Alina outside, wanting nothing more than to escape the cameras and flashing lights. Outside, reporters had already started gathering. Someone must have posted the fight online immediately, so news vans rushed to the scene, microphones stretched toward Marcus. "Sir, what happened inside? Is it true you took down 3 armed men? Are you ex-military? Who trained you?" Marcus kept walking, shielding Alina from the crowd. He didn't answer a single question. He didn't owe them anything. A police officer escorted him to his car to help him get through the chaos. "You did something incredible," the officer said, "but people will want to know who you are." Marcus buckled Alina into her seat and gave a tired sigh. "I don't want attention," he said. "I just want to go home." He drove away quietly, leaving behind flashing lights, cameras, applause, and hundreds of unanswered questions, but something deep inside him told him this wasn't over. Nothing that dramatic ended in a single night. He knew the CEO would contact him again, and he knew this moment, the 4 seconds that changed everything, would follow him far longer than he wanted. Marcus hoped life would return to normal the next morning. He hoped the world had already forgotten the incident, but he was wrong. The moment he stepped outside to take Alina to school, he felt something different in the air. Neighbors stared longer than usual. A man jogging past slowed down to look at him, and even the shopkeeper across the street lifted his eyebrows as if seeing Marcus for the first time. It made Marcus uneasy. He didn't like attention, he didn't want it, he only wanted peace. As he walked toward his car, his phone buzzed with dozens of notifications. He didn't check them, but he already knew what it was. People had filmed the Bistro incident, and the video must have spread overnight. Marcus sighed heavily. "I didn't ask for this," he whispered under his breath. Alina looked up at him, confused. "Daddy, why is everyone looking at you?" Marcus forced a smile. "They're just curious, honey, don't worry." He dropped her at school, kissed her forehead, and drove away quickly before more parents recognized him. But halfway home, his phone rang, an unknown number. At first he ignored it, but when it rang again, and again, he finally picked up. "Mr. Reed," a calm voice said. Marcus recognized it instantly. It was the CEO, the same man he had saved. "Sir," Marcus replied politely, "is everything okay?" The CEO's voice was warm but urgent. "I need to meet you, it's important." Marcus didn't like the sound of that. "I'm not interested in interviews or attention," he said quickly. The CEO chuckled softly. "This is not about interviews, Mr. Reed. Please come to my office, I want to talk privately." Marcus hesitated. Every part of him wanted to avoid more attention, but something in the CEO's tone felt serious. Maybe it wasn't about fame, maybe there was more he didn't know. After a long pause, Marcus agreed. "Fine, I'll come." He arrived at the CEO's headquarters an hour later. The building was tall, shiny, and guarded. People in suits rushed in and out, talking into their earpieces. Marcus felt out of place in his simple clothes. He walked to the front desk. "I'm here to see Mr. Donovan," he said. The receptionist's eyes widened. "Oh, you're him," she whispered before quickly turning professional again and escorting him upstairs. Mr. Donovan, the CEO, stood up the moment Marcus entered his office. He looked calmer today, better rested, but still emotional. "Marcus," he said with genuine warmth, "thank you for coming." Marcus nodded. "What did you want to talk about?" Mr. Donovan motioned toward a chair. "Please sit." Marcus sat stiffly, still uncomfortable in fancy spaces. The CEO took a deep breath. "Marcus, I owe you my life." Marcus shook his head. "You don't owe me anything." But Mr. Donovan leaned forward. "Yes, I do, and I want to understand something." Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly. "Waiting, how did you do what you did?" The CEO asked softly. "No normal person moves like that." Marcus looked down at his hands before answering. "I used to be trained," he said simply. The CEO nodded slowly. "Military." Marcus didn't answer, but his silence was enough. The CEO exhaled deeply. "I thought so." He looked at Marcus with respect, not fear. but curiosity mixed with gratitude. You must have been elite. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. That was a long time ago. The CEO leaned back in his chair, studying Marcus quietly. Why did you stop? Marcus stared out the window, watching the city far below. My wife, he said, his voice dropping, she got sick. I left everything to take care of her. For a moment, the room felt heavy, and after she passed, I wanted nothing to do with fighting or danger. I just wanted to raise my daughter in peace. The CEO nodded slowly, understanding more than he expected. I respect that, he said sincerely. Then he reached into his drawer and placed a thick envelope on the table. This is for you. Marcus shook his head instantly. No, I don't want money. Mr. Donovan smiled gently. It's not money. Marcus hesitated, then opened it. Inside were documents, education vouchers, medical support papers, future scholarship arrangements for Alina. Marcus stared in shock. I can't accept this, he whispered. The CEO shook his head. You saved me when you didn't have to. Let me do something for your daughter. Marcus looked at the papers again, thinking of Alina, thinking of all the nights he worried about bills, thinking of her dreams. This is too much, he said softly. It's not, the CEO replied. It's the least I can do. Before Marcus could respond, there was a knock on the door. A security officer entered hurriedly. Sir, you need to see this. He turned a tablet toward the CEO and Marcus. On the screen was a news report showing the Bistro footage, but this time, it wasn't just the fight. Someone had added dramatic music, headlines, zoomed-in angles, millions of views already, thousands of comments, and one caption stood out. Who is the mysterious black father who took down 3 men in 4 seconds? Marcus felt his stomach drop. This was not good. The CEO looked at him with concern. Marcus, this is going viral fast. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the old weight of danger returning, the kind of attention he never wanted, the kind that could pull him back into a life he tried so hard to escape. And this was just the beginning. Marcus stared at the screen, unable to look away. The video of him fighting had spread everywhere, news channels, social media, even international pages. It played on the tablet in a loop, slowed down, zoomed in, replayed again and again from different angles recorded by customers. Every movement he made inside the bistro was now public, analyzed, praised, questioned. Millions of people were suddenly talking about him. A man who only wanted to live quietly was now the center of the world's attention. He felt his jaw tighten. This is bad, he whispered. His voice wasn't loud, but Mr. Donovan heard the fear behind it. I know this wasn't what you wanted, the CEO said carefully. Marcus let out a long breath he didn't know he was holding. It's not about the fame, he said. It's about what comes with it. The CEO understood immediately. People from your past. Marcus didn't answer, but his silence was enough. Some doors in life were better left closed, some histories were safer forgotten. The security officer cleared his throat. Sir, there's more. He tapped the screen again. A reporter appeared, speaking excitedly. Viewers online are asking, who trained this man? Is he former special forces? Is he connected to classified units? Marcus shook his head in frustration. This isn't good, this will bring questions I can't answer. Mr. Donovan sat down, folding his hands slowly. Marcus, if you want, I can help keep your name out of official reports. Marcus looked at him with a mix of surprise and caution. Why would you do that? The CEO smiled faintly. You saved my life, let me protect yours. But before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed again, this time with a number he hadn't seen in years. His stomach dropped. He didn't answer. He couldn't answer. He knew exactly who it was, someone from the world he had left behind, someone who didn't call unless something serious was happening. The past was waking up, and it had found him. Mr. Donovan noticed the change in Marcus's expression. Is everything okay? Marcus put the phone face down. I need to leave, he said firmly. The CEO didn't stop him. I won't push you, but remember, you're not alone in this. Marcus nodded once, thanked him, and walked out of the office with heavy steps. Outside, he wore his hood to hide his face, but it didn't help. People were already pointing, whispering, trying to approach him. That's him, the man from the video. Sir, can we ask you something? Are you ex-military? Marcus kept walking fast, not making eye contact. He didn't want any part of it. He didn't want cameras following him. He didn't want strangers praising him for violence. When he finally reached his car, He locked the doors and sat in silence. His hands trembled slightly. He closed his eyes and leaned his head back. I can't let this touch Alina, he whispered. His entire world was built around protecting her, making sure she grew up safe, far from the chaos he once lived in. But chaos had knocked on his door anyway. On the drive home, Marcus kept checking the rearview mirror, a habit he thought he had forgotten. Every dark car behind him made his heartbeat quicken. Every phone raised near him made him feel watched. Alina's school was only a few blocks away when his phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. He ignored it, but dread curled inside him like smoke. At home, he found 2 journalists already waiting near his building. They rushed to him immediately. Sir. Just one question. Were you part of a secret program? How did you defeat 3 men so quickly? Is your daughter safe after the attack? That last question made Marcus stop walking. His voice dropped into a tone that froze the reporters in place. Do not talk about my daughter, he said, calm but dangerously clear. The reporters stepped back instantly, sensing the line they had crossed. Marcus hurried upstairs and locked the door behind him. Only then did he let himself breathe fully. He checked every room as if expecting someone to be there. His old instincts were too strong to ignore now. He finally sat on the couch, running a hand across his face, trying to calm the swirling storm inside him. A few minutes later, the door opened softly. Daddy, Alina called, home from school. He rushed to her, pulling her into a tight hug, her small arms wrapped around his neck. You okay, Daddy? He nodded, though the truth was more complicated. I'm okay, sweetheart, everything's okay, he whispered. She didn't know what was happening, but she could feel something was wrong. Children sense storms even before they arrived. Marcus held her for a long moment before putting her down and checking the hallway again. He knew this wasn't just about the past, this was about the future. The world now knew his face, his skill, his strength, and attention like that brought opportunities, but also enemies. As he closed the curtains and shut out the world, one terrifying thought settled deep in his mind. If the wrong people recognized him from that video, they wouldn't come for him. They would come for Alina. And Marcus would not allow that to happen. Not ever. Marcus barely slept that night. Every sound outside made him sit up. Every vibration from his phone made his heart tighten. He kept checking the window, the door lock, the hallway. Even though Alina slept peacefully in her small bed, Marcus felt danger surrounding them like a shadow waiting for the right moment to move. He had lived a quiet life for years, but the fight, the video, the attention, everything had dragged him back into a world he thought he had left forever. The next morning, he made breakfast quietly, trying to pretend everything was normal. Alina sat at the table, swinging her legs and humming a small tune, completely unaware of the storm outside. Marcus watched her for a long moment, the love in his eyes mixed with fear. Daddy, she said with a cute frown, why are you looking at me like that? Marcus smiled softly, just happy to see you smile. But the moment she left for school, escorted by a trusted neighbor, Marcus locked the door again and sat with his phone in his hand. There were dozens of missed calls, unknown numbers, old contacts, even messages saying things like, is this really you? And, we need to talk, call back. He deleted everything without opening them. He didn't want old memories, old missions, or old people coming into his life again. Then the doorbell rang. Marcus stood instantly, silent and still, his instincts sharpened. He didn't move right away, just watched the door, listened to the quiet hallway outside. The bell rang a second time, slower this time. He approached the door carefully and looked through the peephole. It was Mr. Donovan. Marcus opened the door, surprised. What are you doing here? The CEO smiled sheepishly. I know this is unexpected, but I needed to see you. Marcus stepped aside, letting him in. But before they could talk, Marcus closed all the curtains, a small gesture that made Mr. Donovan raise an eyebrow. You're being careful, he said quietly. Marcus replied, I have to be. The CEO sat on the couch, his expression serious. Marcus, I didn't come here to bother you, he began. I came because I have something you need to know. Marcus crossed his arms, waiting. The police interviewed the attackers last night, Mr. Donovan said. They weren't random criminals. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Who were they? The CEO took a slow breath. They were hired. Someone paid them to target me. Marcus felt the tension rise in his chest. Why tell me this? He asked. The CEO's voice softened. Because after what you did. I consider you part of this. You saved me, and whoever hired them might see you as a problem now." Those words struck Marcus like a punch. He had feared something like this. He kept his voice calm, but inside he felt a cold anger forming. Did the attacker say a name? Mr. Donovan shook his head. "No, but the police are searching." Marcus sighed deeply. "This is exactly what I didn't want." The CEO looked at him with sympathy. "I know, and I know you're scared for your daughter." Marcus didn't deny it. He sat down, rubbing his face with his hands. "I can't let anything happen to her," he whispered. Mr. Donovan leaned forward. "Then let me help you." Marcus looked up slowly, unsure, cautious. "How?" The CEO took a card from his pocket. "This is my head of private security," he said, "former FBI, he can protect you and Alina." Marcus didn't take the card. "I don't need guards outside my house," he replied firmly. "It will only draw more attention." The CEO nodded, understanding. "Then at least let me help you disappear. Temporarily." Marcus froze. "Disappear?" Mr. Donovan explained softly. "I can move you and Alina into one of my secure properties for a few days until the police find out who hired those men. It's private, safe, and protected." Marcus wanted to refuse instantly, but then he thought about Alina, the one person whose safety mattered more than anything. He imagined someone dangerous watching the video online, recognizing him, tracing him. He imagined a knock on the door when he wasn't ready, and he imagined Alina caught in the middle. His decision became clear. "When do we leave?" he asked quietly. Mr. Donovan exhaled with relief. "Tonight, I'll arrange everything." Hours later, when darkness fell, Marcus packed a small bag for himself and his daughter. He didn't take much, just essentials. Alina looked confused. "Daddy, are we going on a trip?" Marcus hugged her softly. "Just a small one, baby." When they stepped outside, a black car waited with tinted windows. Mr. Donovan stood beside it. "I promise you're safe," he said. Marcus didn't reply. He simply opened the door and helped Alina inside. As the car pulled away from the street, Marcus looked out the window one last time at the apartment he had tried to build a peaceful life in. He didn't know when he would return. He didn't know if his past would keep chasing him. But one thing he knew for sure, he would do whatever it took to keep his daughter safe. Even if it meant stepping back into the shadows he once escaped.